Today's show. Why does your music perform so badly on social media?
We're going to find out. This is 30-minute music marketing.
30-minute music marketing for musicians who want to get better at marketing their music.
Hello, I'm Greg.
Hello, I'm Sheldon, and this is 30-minute music marketing, the show for independent artists and DIY musicians who want to get better at marketing their music. Hello, thank you very much for streaming, watching, whatever you're doing, however you're consuming this content. We thank you for doing so, and we hope that we'll be able to provide you with a good burst of information which will improve your performance on social media with this week's episode. And it was indeed prompted by a video that I saw on social media. In fact, Greg, you'll probably insert that video here.
Okay, why is it that when I start promoting the music I've been working on for months and months and months, no one really cares? But people care when I show how I make the music. But then when I put it out, everyone's like, eh.
It is, you shared that video with me, and
I did, and here's the quandary. As a musician, it's all about you creating and promoting your music, and you're supposed to use social media platforms in order to do that. However, out of all the types of content that you put on social media, the whole point of you being on there, showing people your music and trying to get people to engage with and listening to it, that's the worst performing type of content. Why is that, Greg? Is there any way that we can improve the stats? Is there any way that we can get people to see it and engage with it more? That's what this episode is all about. So if you find yourself in that particular position, then this episode is going to be for you. Does Gino has her own Instagram account? I can hear her agreeing.
I'm like, will you shush? Stop it. And what you basically, it's true. It does get a little bit like disheartening, because, more people are interested in a rhinoceros farting than they are in something you've slaved away for hours and hours. Or if you fall on your face, that will probably get more views than something that you spent hours on. And you yourself, you've kind of found this out when, I suppose it was not quite, it was the song that you spent hours on didn't get anywhere near as much attention as one that was more a throwaway thing that you didn't really think about.
It's always the way, but it is a common problem. I'm currently mentoring a singer at the moment. Hello, Amy. I'm hopefully she's watching, and she basically said, that I have exactly the same sort of problem myself. So hopefully this will be of benefit to quite a few people. So I've got a few points that I've written down. And point number one is, for me, a lot of this content that we're also creating in addition to our music is the behind the scenes sort of thing. Your life as an independent musician, writing, recording, performing your music out and about. And that is basically storytelling. And as we've discussed on this particular podcast before, episode 4, if people want to scroll back, storytelling and it is what people engage with. Stories are how we communicate with each other as humans. I'll be going to the pub on Thursday night, and when I meet up with my friends, I will be regaling them with the stories that have happened to me since we were last together, and they'll do so the same. So all the forms of entertainment that we generally have are stories. Your films and TV shows, your stories. News is presented to us in the form of news stories. So you putting the story of yourself as an independent musician, that is going to be naturally engaging to people. People are going to be engaging with that more than perhaps other types of content. So people, recognize your struggles, your endeavors. I don't know whether I mentioned this to you before, Greg, but I do a bit of running, and me posting my runs on social media generally tends to get more engagement and more replies from people than any other type of post. I've been off with an injury, or I have been for a couple of months earlier this year, and I did the longest run that I've done this year, and the response that I've got from people, was absolutely fantastic. And it's just me going for a jog of a morning. I guess
it's like people putting a picture of their dinner.
Well, yeah, if it's if food is generally something, it tends to be something we generally require to live.
Yeah, but I don't feel the need to blimmin' take a picture of it and share it.
Well,
I've never
do.
I know. It's a strange world out there.
Do you know what my best performing video on Facebook has been this year?
Hang on, when you say you, are we talking you or the band?
We're talking about, I'm talking my band. My band's best performing video on Facebook.
Go on.
It's when we had a chocolate bar stuck in a vending machine, and we put another £1 in to see whether we could get the same chocolate bar to force it out of the vending machine. And we were saying to people, vote now, vote now. And even though that video was only like 30 or 40 seconds long, it gripped the nation. It had about 80,000 views, so it went over and above our actual fan base on that particular platform. So it is strange how, anytime we tell sort of stories that people can connect with, or anytime there's jeopardy within anything that we post, that is it will perform naturally well, and people will find that sort of relatable.
To be fair, though, a guilty pleasure of mine at the moment is on YouTube watching people drive through Fords in their cars. And
fjords, you mean?
No, Fords, as in, a water where water goes over a road. And people think they can drive through 3 foot of water in a Golf.
And then get stuck. No.
And then just float away. And it is just like, are they going to kill the car? Are they not? I have no idea why I watch them. But I've become addicted.
So stories are generally sort of universal, as it were. You can say perhaps music is quite even subjective. I mean, I'm sure you'll follow your favorite artists on social media, and every now and again they'll post a piece of music that it's all right, but it wouldn't necessarily. It's not going to set sort of the world on fire. So I would probably say that your behind the scenes stuff will probably naturally get more engagement than your music. And in that particular case, don't worry about it. Don't sweat it. It's just one of those things that will happen because of human nature, as it were.
I guess it's people's curiosity. I mean, look at the Get Back documentary. I mean, that came out twice, I guess, over 50 years. And people are just curious to see how people behave. I guess that's more relatable than a piece of music, which, whilst can be enjoyable, it might not be as relatable.
People, especially fans, are very intrigued by the process. This we know. Our friend Anthony was beside himself with the Beatles documentary.
As in a good way or a bad way? A
very good way. And lots of Beatles fans found it, an almost orgasmic experience.
I watched the trailer. The trailer looked really good, and I haven't got past the first episode because it's like watching a rehearsal session here.
I switched it off after about 90 minutes. I was very bored. But apologies, if you're a Beatles fan and you like it, that's fine. So right, let's look at this other point that I.
Okay, so Colin, what is? Are we going on to point number 2?
Yeah.
Come on, I want a strategy, Sheldon. Give me a strategy.
Right, I found that a strategy that lots of musicians use to increase their follower numbers on social media platforms, primarily sort of TikTok, is following each other back. When pretty much every TikTok session that I go on, there'll be a video which I'm sure you'll paste in here because I'll send it to you, which basically says, "Hey, if you're an independent musician on TikTok and you hear this sound, then you follow me and I'll follow you, and together we'll grow as independent musicians." And that's fine. That is a strategy. But what you'll generally tend to find is that all the people who follow you, or a good percentage of people who follow you, will just be independent musicians. And are they really following you? Are they really going to, consume your music?
No.
I don't necessarily know. Again, they're probably the sort of people who will appreciate that struggle. And there was a video of a band that videos of bands that keep cropping up on TikTok, and they were on tour and they were posting like a daily diary, and they were performing at the Deaf Institute in Manchester, and it had about 31 stairs, and they were filming themselves dragging that drum kit through the loading up those stairs.
Well, that's going to be relatable.
And it was very relatable to me. I've done those sorts of load-ins before, and probably will do again. So again, if a good proportion of the people that follow you are musicians, yes, they will enjoy that sort of behind-the-scenes sort of content. They probably won't even listen to your music. So be wary of that type of growth strategy, because you're not potentially getting the right sort of followers. It's not going to be real fans. It's just people following you for the sake of following you. And ultimately, you could have big numbers, but not necessarily the sort
Big
of people
fans.
you should be concentrating on.
So if that doesn't work, have you
Yep.
got a strategy that does work?
Well, let's come on to the strategies.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
It's a little later. Maybe the next point is, if your music on social media isn't performing as well, should we treat that as a point of reflection and actually sort of say to ourselves, well, in the commercial music space, is it as good as it potentially needs to be? There's one particular person that I follow who's like a music marketer on social media, and he made a reasonably good point, is that your music needs to be about the equivalent of about 80% of what is, in terms of your particular genre, performing well commercially out there. So it doesn't need to be as good as what is in the charts or what is the top of your particular genre, but it needs to be close enough to be getting there. You can work on the basis that as a small independent artist, your music is artisanal. That's what I like to say. So
The what?
Artisanal.
That's
when you go to these
made-up word.
it's not these artisanal. You've heard of artisanal breads, and it's small batch and it's handmade and it's rustic.
So
and you
bespoke.
Yes, yeah.
Right, okay.
It's produced small, in small batches. It's produced independently, and it's not mass commercially produced. So it's maybe potentially not necessarily a little rough around the edges, but it's you can almost relate to and communicate with the people that actually sort of make it. Mm-hmm. But it's maybe not reaching and not as accomplished as the top of its genre, but it sort of it does need to be aspiring to, and let's just use that term of, it needs to be about as 80% as good. So it may well be that if
when
you examine
when you say as good, are we talking in a presentation perspective, or are we talking in a songwriting and arrangement perspective?
Songwriting, arrangement, production, I think all of those are sort of quite crucial. So that just might be the first point to consider. And it may well be that, right, well, do I need to find someone to work with to improve the arrangements? Do I actually need to graduate from my home bedroom studio or maybe I need to pay somebody on Fiverr to actually mix this particular track if I don't think that the quality of the mix is good enough? Things to consider. You can say, does the music, in the way that it's being presented on social media, does it need to be presented in a slightly different way? Does it need to be performed live, and you're actually using just the audio from the original studio recording? Or if you're doing it live, does it need to be the other way around? What it might necessarily need to be a case of, well, I'll perform some music live, capture with your phone, or maybe I'll lip sync live to the original studio recording. Maybe see which one performs better and engages with your audience the most. Use that as almost like a data point. See which people prefer. Give them more of that.
I mean, out of curiosity, because you're with the videos, you've obviously done music videos, you've done narrative videos, you've done kind of funny videos, and then you've also done a lot of live performance videos and live lounge. Would you say any performs better than others?
Let's see. It's probably been a while since I sat down and looked through my stats. I think a lot of the stuff that my band does is very song dependent. Mm-hmm. And the quality of the song, whether it's a music video or whether it's something that's been captured live, I think the quality of the song is quite sort of dependent. So I'd say for me, the format doesn't necessarily matter as much as the
The
That's the word I'm
presentation.
looking for. The presentation, the format, whether it's live or whether it's studio.
I mean, will you continue to do a big, wide range of video presentations?
Very much so. Because, I like sort of stretching my artist muscle that particular way. Plus, I do think that especially because we're a band that people pay a reasonable amount of money to see, I think it's good to see for people to see that presented in a professional context. But also as well, if we can capture footage of ourselves, even at a phone in a live capacity, then people are also seeing what they ultimately will be paying for.
Yeah.
So it's for me. I think it's a case of for my particular band, good quality, professionally produced music videos to get people to shows, and then also footage of live performance potentially at shows, so people can see the end result as well.
So you come down to here. Another point is, and it's obviously always a big point, is engagement or engaging.
Yes,
and being more better at it.
Better at it. I love your grammar there. But whatever platform that you're on, the algorithm tends to increase distribution of your content, depending on factors such as not only watch time, but likes, comments, and shares. And generally, music and listening to music is quite a passive experience, and this is one of those things. There will be maybe a performance of you with an acoustic guitar and a microphone, and you performing a clip of a song, and it's like, well, that's nice, and I might watch it, but there isn't really anything for me to engage with in terms of maybe commenting about it, and it is sort of very passive, and people, these platforms potentially want to see some response from the audience. So it's a potentially case of, is there any way that you can try and bake in, and maybe in a clickbaity sort of fashion, try and get that engagement from the audience? Could it be sort of like, the strategies that we've used in the past is, tag a friend who might associate with the topic of this particular track. Or it could well be that, if your track's dealing with a particular type of relationship, it could well be that, the caption is what I'm talking about within the context of this song. Has that happened to you? Or does this relate to you in any sort of way? Can you put any sort of question, as a caption that again relates to the topic of the song? So sometimes you can be a little bit sneaky, a little bit sort of clickbaity, but trying to get maybe some sort of written response from your audience, might be a good way to get that engagement and increase that algorithmic distribution.
How do you feel about tagging companies of equipment you've used in the video?
I think on things like YouTube, I think that's certainly a good thing, because people will be potentially searching for examples of content created with those sorts of microphones, you show SM7s or particular sort of cameras. So I think that's a particularly good thing. Okay,
so finally, what's your final point? What should people take away from this deep dive today?
Oh, okay. Take away from the deep dive. I think you have to remember that different types of content will have different levels of performance. But I think the one thing that I would let's put it this way. Your music is designed to make you money. So ultimately, you need to have a marketing budget in order for people to get to see that, whether that's ultimately the people who are your fans or the people who are your non-fans. So I think you've always got to remember that if you want your music to reach an audience, which is your audience, and people who aren't yet your audience, just work on the basis that you need an allocation of money for that to happen and to be guaranteed to happen. You might be lucky enough, as I found with my particular case, with a couple of high-performing songs on TikTok, which have performed very, very well. But what I also need to do is now I'm still investing a little bit of money in terms of the promotion of that song or of these songs on those platforms in order for it to reach even more people. So, you know, you have to invest in the in the short term, and indeed to the medium term, to get long-term results. So, you know, just work on the basis that the behind the scenes stuff is the stuff that will get potentially the most views. Don't worry about it. Again, that can be a way of potentially engaging with your existing audience. But in order for your existing and indeed your new audience to hear that music, the one that you've made and that you've spent so much time and energy creating, put some money behind it, ring fence a budget for each and every release so that people do get to hear it and it's not actually restricted with the algorithm.
So there you go. That is today's deep dive. Quite informative.
So, you know, it's yes, and if people have encountered ways of making their music perform well on social media platforms, if there's any particular trick, any particular secret sauce that people bake into their music content videos that has proved to be a success on social media, then by all means, let us know in the comments, message us wherever you've found this particular podcast / video blog, and let us know, and we can maybe feed that back to the wider 30-minute music marketing audience.
Yes, and apologies if people can hear Juno moaning in the background.
Does she need to be let out at all?
I don't know. She's got a mind of her own. So yeah. Well, there you go. Thanks for watching and listening, and we will see you on the next one.
Tell a friend, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.